Hi, everyone. Um, Continuing with the healing evangelists of the 20th century, we can't neglect William Branham. He was directly connected with the Latter Rain movement, and really, like I said earlier, the Latter Rain movement was launched out of a prayer meeting or a series of prayer meetings that were established immediately after one of his revivals in Saskatchewan, Canada. But while he was a notable healing evangelist um, and influential, I believe he passed away in a tragic car accident. Um, but um, but in some of his revival meetings, he people began to declare him as the second coming of Christ, or certainly began elevating him beyond a normal human level, which is really a note of caution we should all consider when we elevate pastors, evangelists, or Christian leaders beyond a normal human level. They are all human beings, and sadly, even I believe to this day, there are a smattering of Christian groups in different parts of North America. I believe there is still a group that gathers in Washington, D.C., um, who, when they get together for church on Sunday mornings, um, they simply watch old video reel of William Branham evangelistic meetings. Um, Really sobering. But but on another note, let's look at another evangelist who unfortunately does remind us that these were all human beings, and his name is A. Allen. He was another popular healing evangelist of that era who was Pentecostal and definitely came out of the popularity that began with the Latter Rain movement. Unfortunately, he struggled with alcoholism, and in some of his later life, this led to his downfall, and he really died. I think really um, as he died of complications related to his alcoholism. Really, in a way, kind of a tragic figure. Uh, but another evangelist that had certainly had enormous popularity in North America, but much more in South America was Tommy Hicks. He actually, in the 1940s, after World War II, became popular, but in 1948, or no, actually, it was 1952. Yeah, he was staying with a friend of his named Demas Shakarian, and that night he had a vision that he was to go to Latin America. And he went to Argentina and started leading crusades. He became the first evangelist in the world to hold a crusade in which more than 1 million people attended. Another evangelist, not quite as popular as some of the rest, but nevertheless influential, was Hal Herman, somebody I considered a personal friend and mentor. But he did preach to millions of people in the world. He was Douglas MacArthur's press secretary in World War II. He came to Christ shortly after that, and but he was most notable for mentoring many of the next generation of Christian evangelists. More recently, you have people like Pat Robertson, who started the 700 Club, started at Regent University, where I got 2 graduate degrees from, and became a evangelist and also a presidential candidate. Um, but very influential in the Christian world still today. And finally, Reinhard Bonnke, who sadly recently passed away, but he lived a very full life as an evangelist. He still led, preached to hundreds of millions of people in Africa. He was certainly the Billy Graham of Africa and was the most widely known, widely popular evangelist in Africa. At one of his crusades in Lagos, Nigeria, 18 years ago, there were nearly 20 million people. I think this might be a picture of him preaching in that Lagos crusade. In one night, over 1 million people came to Christ. It's estimated that I think somewhere around 85 million people came to Christ in his crusades. But anyway, these are some of the most notable evangelists in the 20th century. I look forward to hearing and seeing what God will do through the evangelists of the 21st century as God raises up perhaps some of you to evangelize and preach to those who don't yet know Jesus. Well, I look forward to our discussion next week as we look at the beginning of the charismatic movement.